My House of Horrors Chapter 271 to 280. After fixing the lock, Chen Ge and Xiao Jiyu dragged the members of the Society of Strange Tales back to the first floor and locked them inside the dressing room. Boss, is it safe to lock them in like this? Xiao Jiyu shook the lock. I mean, should I use some rope to tie them up? Chen Ge could sense Jiyu Feiyu's improvement. He removed the Dr. Skullcracker's outfit and handed it to Xiao Jiyu. Don't worry about that. Put this on and return to the third floor. The visitors will be waiting anxiously. No problem, leave it to me. This time, Xiao Jiyu did not reject it. He put on the Dr. Skullcracker's outfit and was very enthusiastic. He was like a different person from when he arrived that morning. It made Chen Ge suspect that he had been possessed by the ghosts of the Society of Strange Tales. This is weird. When you entered the haunted house earlier, it was like you were walking into an execution ground. How come it has changed so much now? Is it? Xiao Jiyu scratched his head in embarrassment. He was wearing the Dr. Skullcracker's outfit, and this action gave Chen Ge a very uncomfortable feeling. Initially, I thought the haunted house was just a place to scare people to death. I thought it was not a good way to earn money, but after I saw you talk to that couple, I suddenly realized that sometimes, our haunted house can be quite heartwarming. Looks like you've had a misunderstanding about the haunted house. Fear can make people drop their usual disguise. Here, you only need to let go of your worries and scream as much as you want. Chen Ge said seriously, with the fast-paced life and the pressure that we have to face, in this city, there has to be a place for people to vent their emotions. You think we're earning money by scaring people, but that's not the case. We're just adding life to their numb hearts. Quote. Patting Jiyu Feiyu on his shoulder, Chen Ge revealed a smile as warm as the morning sun. Try your best to scare the visitors. That couple is a good example. No one will treasure what is easily obtained, so only in the deepest despair will the most beautiful accident happen. After hearing Chen Ge's words, Jiyu Feiyu nodded heavily. He suddenly felt like his job was very sacred. I will definitely play my role well. Good luck. Seeing how motivated Jiyu Feiyu was, Chen Ge sighed in relief. Young people sure are hot-blooded. By the way, set my number as a one-button dial. If you run into anything you can't solve inside the haunted house, call me immediately. All right. The couple's argument was just an interlude for Chen Ge, but he did not expect that through this small interlude, Jiyu Feiyu would completely approve of the haunted house. Of course, what Xiao Jiyu agreed with was the haunted house that Mr. Chen had described for him. Pulling back the thick curtain, Chen Ge walked out of the haunted house. The resting hall was filled with waiting visitors. The effect of the promotion was shocking. Many impatient visitors also started to visit other attractions. People came and went. Although it could not be compared to New Century Park's peak, it was enough to satisfy the staff. Everyone started to get busy, and this theme park that had been under construction for 10 years was rejuvenated. After losing another 2 members, the Society of Strange Tales did not continue to test Chen Ge. Perhaps they had realized the problem. If this continued, in a few days, the whole society would have no more members. At 6:30 p.m., the number of visitors at the entrance was still high, but for safety reasons, Chen Ge stopped accepting visitors. The park started to clear, and the visitors started to leave at 7 p.m. The number of visitors that day had broken the record for the past 6 months. At noon, Shushu was called away by Director Luo. They seemed to be discussing the next step of the promotion. Thank you for your hard work. Closing the gate, Chen Ge calculated his earnings for the day. Online and cash payments added up to about 15,000 RMB. This number was lower than he expected, and the main reason was that to ensure the visitors' experience, Chen Ge had limited the number of visitors at a time. Minghan could only allow 4 people at a time, Murder by Midnight's limit was 7, and Muyong High School's limit was raised to 12 due to the popularity of the visitors. The first 2 scenarios took 20 minutes each, but Muyong High School was too big, and the number of visitors was too high, so it took an average of 40 minutes. The efficiency of earning money was slightly lower, but the positive rating continued to climb. More and more people started to help Chen Ge promote the haunted house. They used social media and Weibo to recommend the haunted house to their friends and family. This was a virtuous cycle. For a normal haunted house, due to the limited number of scenarios, once the novelty wore off, the number of visitors would slowly drop. However, for Chen Ge's haunted house, due to the fact that the scenarios were graded, as long as he could ensure that there were more scary scenarios, the number of visitors would only increase. For him, a good reputation was more important than short-term profits. After a whole day of business, only one group of people found 18 name tags. This group included the students from Western Zhejiang's Medical University who had come with Yang Cheng and the passers-by who had tried before. Chen Ge asked them if they wished to challenge the next scenario, and the group of visitors who had been ravaged all rejected him decisively. After the day's business ended, after Xu Wan and Xiao Jiyu left, Chen Ge used his phone to transfer them 2 more sums of money. After dealing with all the trivial matters, Chen Ge opened the door to the dressing room. Wei Wu and Kong Xiongming had already woken up, but after the disappearance of the ghost, their minds had been heavily damaged. They looked like they could not remember anything. After getting the 2 out of the haunted house, Chen Ge brought them to the police station to find Captain Yan. Xiao Jiyu wandered down the road, and he kept touching his face. After wearing the mask for a whole day, even though he had taken it off, it felt like there was something stuck to his face. Where should I stay tonight? It's not a good idea to return to the security dormitory after the argument with Manager Huang. Brother Chen has helped me so much, and I can't ask him to pay me in advance. His hands were in his pockets. Just as he was worrying about it, he received a message on his phone. Brother Chen is giving me money. This is my first day here. Xiao Jiyu looked at the 800 RMB transfer on his phone. That was enough to rent a decent apartment in Western Zhejiang. He was reminded of his experience when he first joined the security team, and with the comparison, Xiao Jiyu was touched. Mr. Chen is such a good man. Pocketing his phone, Xiao Jiyu walked toward Fanghua Apartment's security dormitory. He planned to pack his things and move out the next day. Xiao Jiyu returned to the dormitory at 8 p.m. Once he entered the door, he saw Manager Huang standing in the room with a scowl on his face. Where have you been? Wearing a suit and polished leather shoes, Manager Huang seemed to have looked down on Jiyu Feiyu from the beginning. I was just about to look for you. I've already found a new job, and I'll be moving out tomorrow. Jiyu Feiyu was a stubborn person, and he was very direct with his words. Wang was also in the dormitory. He hurried over to grab Jiyu Feiyu and apologized to Manager Huang in a low voice. Please don't take it to heart, Xiao Jiyu is still a child. He glared at Jiyu Feiyu. Why can't you change your temper? There's no need to change. This place is too small for such a person. Manager Huang placed a piece of paper on the table. Even if you don't want to find a new job, I won't keep you anymore. Fill out this form, and tomorrow, you'll be fired. Pushing Wang away, Manager Huang stopped at the door. There's one more thing I need to inform you. Wang, you recommended him. The salary for this kid's absence from work in the hospital's emergency room treatment will all be deducted from your salary. Quote. What does that have to do with Uncle Wang? Just deduct my salary. Xiao Jiyu resisted the urge to argue. Deduct your salary. The contract you signed clearly states that you'll only be considered a permanent employee after 1 month, and now you're quitting because you don't have enough time. Do you really think the contract is a piece of paper? Do you know how much trouble you've caused in less than a month? Manager Huang walked out without looking back. You still want your salary? Are you dreaming? Quote. Jiyu Feiyu turned around. He wanted to give Manager Huang a good beating, but Wang stopped him. Endure for a moment, and take a step back. Uncle, it's fine if he doesn't give me my salary. I'm angry that he made you pay for the fines. How old are you? Why are you still so impulsive? Wang had Jiyu Feiyu sit down while he went to close the bedroom door. It's not easy to earn money these days. Tell me, what kind of job have you found? If the pay is good, I'll go help. Quote. Wang was worried about Jiyu Feiyu. He was afraid that he might be scammed, so he tried to probe Jiyu Feiyu's situation. The mention of his new job did Xiao Gu's anger slowly dissipate. I'm working as an actor at a haunted house. The boss is very kind, He gave me a red packet on my first day. Is that so? OL. Wang was confused. You're such an honest kid. You'd better be careful when you work there. Don't create trouble for them, and be careful of scammers. I won't. OL. Wang said a lot of things out of worry. He changed into the security uniform when it was almost 8:30 p.m. and prepared to leave. Uncle, I remember you're working in the morning. Why are you still going at night? Quote, a murderer just sneaked into this area, and everyone is worried. One person on the night shift won't be enough. How about I take your place for the night? Xiao Ji felt guilty. If not for him, OL, Wang would not have been fined. Have a good rest. Leave a good impression at work tomorrow. OL, Wang took the vacuum flask and left. He ran back to remind Xiao Ji, if you're not used to the new job, remember to give me a call. I have some connections in this area. Don't worry, no matter how tiring the job is, it's better than being a security guard. Son of AB**TCH. OL, Wang shook his head. This time, he really left. He slowly walked to the back door of Fanghua Apartments. He chatted with the security guard for a while and then stood guard at the back door alone. There were 2 security guards on the night shift, one at the front and the back door, so they could not touch each other. As the night deepened, the back door, which was rarely visited by people, became even more deserted. Since there had been a murderer sneaking into this area, OL, Wang did not dare let his guard down. He sat beside the window and kept raising his head to look at the back door. After a whole day of work in his old age, it did not take long for OL, Wang to collapse on the table. At around 11 p.m., the phone on the table suddenly rang. OL, Wang was woken up from his dream. He looked around with the baton, and there was no one under the dim streetlights. That gave me a fright. OL, Wang opened the vacuum flask to take a sip of hot water. He looked at his phone, and there was a message on WeChat. Are you there? He was quite old, and he did not use WeChat much. Who sent me this message? The other party's status was off limits. OL, Wang looked at the person's name and profile picture, but he really could not remember who this friend was. Other than my family and my coworkers, there are only a few familiar tenants in my WeChat contact list. Holding the phone with both hands, OL, Wang thought about it for a long time, but he could not remember who this person was. He placed the phone on the table. He wanted to use voice chat, but he thought it would be rude at night, so he used both hands to slowly reply. Yes, how can I help you? After waiting for a few seconds, the other person sent a new message. I'm a tenant on the 23rd floor of the 3rd building. I don't know what's going on with the neighbor. The child has been crying, but I can't hear the adults. Call someone to come and take a look. The child is crying. The 23rd floor of the 3rd building. When OL, Wang saw these few words, he knew that it was a message from the tenants because something similar had happened before. Okay, I'll be there in a minute. Out of caution, OL, Wang messaged the security guard at the front door and then called Manager Huang, but Manager Huang did not pick up. The 3rd building again. Why are there so many things happening at this building? OL, Wang picked up the baton and ran to the 3rd building. He had heard the legend about the elevator at the 3rd building, but the message said that the incident happened on the 23rd floor. Time was tight, and he would not make it in time to take the stairs. I'll take the elevator with OL, way later. OL, Wang stood at the elevator door waiting for the security guard to come, but then his phone rang again. Are you there? Yes. The child is crying even harder. Something really happened. Where are you guys? Quote. Looking at the phone, OL, Wang pressed the button for the elevator, and it stopped at the 1st floor. Don't worry, I'll be there in a minute. OL, Wang entered the elevator and watched as the door slowly closed. Wang's heart raced. Being in an enclosed space, he felt like he had difficulty breathing. The number on the screen soon turned to 23, and the elevator door slowly opened. The dark corridor was strangely quiet, and OL, Wang carefully walked out of the elevator. He turned on the flashlight, but the light did not give him a sense of security. If anything, it made him feel even more uneasy. I'm already on the 23rd floor. Give me the room number. 3239. Gathering his courage, Wang slowly moved into the darkness. He used the flashlight to scan the rooms one by one. He felt like he had walked a long way before he found room 3239. There's no crying. He leaned against the door and listened. Room 3239 was very quiet, and there was no sound of the child. A prank, or did something happen? Wang was not sure. He took out his phone and was about to ask the person when the person sent him another message. Are you there? I'm already in room 3239. Are you sure you're not mistaken? Typing was too slow, so Wang sent a voice message. However, not long after he sent the voice message, his own voice appeared behind him. Is someone there? Wang slowly turned around and saw the door to room 3239 was half open. A pale figure was squatting at the door, holding a phone. At 11:15 p.m., Xiao Jiyu was about to go to sleep when his phone vibrated. He opened it to see that it was a message from Wang. The content was simple, and there were only 3 words. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. Uncle Wang. Jiyu Feiyu looked at his phone and answered without thinking. Yes, what's up? A tenant called to say he saw a suspicious person sneak into the 3rd building. We don't have enough security on the night shift. If you're still awake, come and help. Suspicious person. Okay, I'll be there in a minute. Because of him, Wang was fined money, and Xiao Jiyu felt guilty. He had been looking for a chance to make it up to him, so he agreed without hesitation. Holding his phone, Jiyu Feiyu jogged to Fanghua Apartments. The 3rd building was next to the back door. Jiyu Feiyu glanced into the security booth. Wang had left in a hurry and did not even close the door. Could something have happened to him? He called Wang, but there was no answer. After he entered the 3rd building, he received a new message on his WeChat. The person who sneaked in seems to be a thief. We've trapped him on the 23rd floor, be careful when you come. Okay. Worried about Wang's safety, Xiao Jiyu walked into the elevator directly and pressed the button for the 23rd floor. The elevator door slowly closed, and Xiao Jiyu felt weird looking at his phone. Uncle Wang types very slowly, and he usually sends voice messages. Also, I called him earlier, but why didn't he answer? Even though he was confused, Xiao Jiyu did not think someone was purposely lying to him. I've just moved to the city to work. I don't have the looks or the money, so there's no reason for someone to lie to me. Uncle Wang's group is probably lying in ambush, so it's not convenient for them to answer the phone. The number on the screen kept changing, and the elevator soon reached the 23rd floor. Uncle, I've arrived, which room are you in? Xiao Jiyu tiptoed out of the elevator. He hid at the corner of the corridor and messaged Wang to ask for his location. The thief seems to be in room 3239. We're hiding in the room opposite him. Be careful not to make too much noise when you come over. Lifting his head to look down the dark corridor, Xiao Jiyu memorized the room number on his WeChat and walked in. There were no lights in the corridor, and the only source of light came from Xiao Gu's phone. He looked at the closed doors on both sides and slowed down. He was getting further and further away from the elevator. When he was halfway there, Xiao Jiyu looked back and noticed that the number on the elevator display had suddenly changed. It seemed like someone was using the elevator downstairs, or something had just run into the elevator. In short, the elevator had returned to the 1st floor. If they encountered a crisis at this time, it would be almost impossible to escape through the elevator. It would take about a minute for the elevator to come up again. Someone came up from the 1st floor. Is it another security guard? Xiao Jiyu waited for a while and realized that the elevator was still on the 1st floor. He was a little confused, but before he could figure it out, old Wang urged him on WeChat again. It would have been fine if she didn't rush him, but now that she did, Xiao Jiyu felt that something was amiss. Uncle Wang can't type that fast. Could it be that he wasn't the one who sent the message? Xiao Ji had this suspicion a long time ago, but the main problem was that he did not think there was anything worth scheming about him. There were so many people in Wang's WeChat, so why him? Xiao Ji stopped moving. He called Uncle Wang again, but there was still no answer. He doesn't answer the phone but keeps sending messages. Is he trying to cover up his voice? Not long ago, Xiao Ji had run into the crazy woman at the third building. He had almost been dismembered, and that memory had become a shadow in his heart. At the same time, it had taught him a valuable lesson. One should not have the intention to harm others, but one should always be cautious. He stopped moving forward but carefully moved toward the elevator. I should leave the building first and find the other security guards to ask about the situation. There was a trace of regret in Xiao Gu's heart. He shouldn't have taken the elevator so rashly. Coincidentally, not long ago, Wang had specifically reminded him not to act rashly no matter what he did. Sticking to the wall, walking down the dark corridor, Xiao Gu's heart became more and more unsettled. The elevator is still stuck on the first floor, that's weird. If there wasn't someone on the first floor pressing the button, how could the elevator go down? Could it be that someone was hiding behind me and snuck into the elevator when I wasn't paying attention? Quote. In the quiet corridor, Xiao Gu's phone suddenly vibrated, and it gave him a fright. He lowered his head to look, and there was a new message from Wang. Have we arrived? For some reason, when he saw the 3 words, Xiao Ji panicked. He quickened his steps. However, he had only walked a few meters back when he received another message on his phone. Are you there? Xiao Ji held the phone and did not reply. He retreated to the elevator and pressed the button. The elevator that was stopped on the first floor slowly moved up. Xiao Ji stared at the number on the screen, and his heart was pounding. The person who sent him the message seemed to have sensed something, and the frequency of the message increased significantly. Xiao Gu's phone kept vibrating, and the same message kept popping up on the screen. Are you there? Are you there? Are you there? Quote. By then, Xiao Ji was certain that the person on the other side of the phone was not Wang. The more he thought about it, the more afraid he became. Looking at the messages that popped up, he felt a chill that he had never felt before. What the hell is going on? When the elevator reached the 11th floor, Wang suddenly stopped sending him messages. The phone stopped vibrating, and Xiao Ji sighed in relief. He wiped his forehead and realized it was already soaked in cold sweat. Someone has probably taken Uncle Wang's phone. I need to leave before they find out. With that thought in his mind, Xiao Ji pressed the button madly. When the elevator reached the 14th floor, he turned back to look. The door of one of the rooms at the end of the corridor was half open, and a pale figure was holding Wang's phone and peeking out. My parents have taught me since I was young that I should be a righteous and upright person, and that has formed the habit of helping those who are just. When I see someone disregarding the law and committing evil, I can't help but want to bring them to justice. I admit that I was being impulsive, but the situation at the time did not allow me to hesitate. If I didn't do something, more people would have been hurt. Chen Ge dangled the handcuffs and looked at Captain Yan and the other 3 officers on the other side of the table. This is the reason you used violence to knock them out. The officer next to Captain Yan frowned deeply. I feel like I'm the victim. After all, they have the advantage in numbers. Have you ever seen a victim come to the police station with 2 perpetrators? They were the ones who started it. I have a clear conscience. Chen Ge and the 4 officers on the other side of the table stared at each other. In the end, it was Captain Yan who coughed to break the silence. At 11 p.m., the door to the interrogation room was pushed open. 2 officers placed the printouts on the table. Wei Wu, real name Zhang Wu, male, 36 years old, works at a medical company. In the past half a year, he often goes out at night. He used fake IDs to rent many underground rooms in the countryside. Compared to the surveillance. Kong Xiongming, real name Kong Yin, wanted criminal. Xinhai police suspect this man to be related to 2 murder cases. Seeing the information on the table, Chen Ge straightened his back. Things were going smoother than he expected. Kong Xiongming turned out to be a fugitive. In this way, there were many things that he didn't need to say in detail, and the police would believe it. I didn't lie to you, did I? Chen Ge raised both of his hands. If I may ask, how much is the reward for capturing the fugitive Kong Yin? Xinhai is a first-tier city, so the reward must be much higher than Zhujiang. Quote, the reward is issued by the Ministry of Public Security. It has nothing to do with the price of goods. Captain Yan had the people next to him unlock Chen Ge's handcuffs. He personally poured a glass of warm water and placed it before Chen Ge. Tell me, how did you discover these two people? I told you I'm a victim, but you didn't believe me. Chen Ge looked like he was wronged. Hearing his voice, the few officers in the interrogation room felt their scalps go numb. No one doesn't believe you, but we need evidence for everything. Seeing how the others did not say anything, Captain Yan stepped forward. Don't take it to heart. Other than that, if possible next time, try to hold back a little. If they really die because of you, you won't be able to explain yourself. Captain Yan had no idea why he would give Chen Ge that advice, but he felt like this was just the beginning. Okay, I'll try my best. I'll help you ask about the reward tomorrow. Now, can you tell me more about these two people? Captain Yan was familiar with Chen Ge's personality, so he tossed out the reward as bait. Actually, I'm really a victim. Chen Ge's tone turned serious. You should still remember when I went to the mental hospital to livestream and accidentally discovered a living person being held captive by a mental patient, right? Yes, I remember. Captain Yan seemed to think of something. Those mental patients have pictures of you entering New Century Park. You mean, these two were sent by the mental patients to mess with you? Trouble. Chen Ge shook his head and took a deep breath. They probably want to kill me. As soon as he said this, the interrogation room suddenly became quiet. Combined with the police investigation report, several policemen present knew that what Chen Ge said was likely true. This is the revenge of those lunatics. Just because you discovered their secret in an abandoned mental hospital, they're going to kill you. A younger policeman at the table asked. They are all mentally ill. Their worldview is completely different from ours. Chen Ge thought about it. He planned to tell Captain Yan everything he could to prevent the police from making unnecessary sacrifices. After a short interaction, I realized that these people's minds have been completely twisted. They view everything with their own twisted values, and the worst thing is, they insist that they are right and the world is sick. You can't interact with them using common sense, they are very dangerous. Quote, mental patients with a twisted worldview to kill people. Captain Yan's fingers tapped on the table. He would only do this when he was deep in thought. I'm telling the truth, and you have to be careful. They are different from normal mental patients. Different. They can disguise themselves as normal people in the day, but only in the dead of night or when they are alone will they reveal their sick side. Chen Ge was reminding Captain Yan that these people were different from normal mental patients. In fact, most of them were much smarter than normal people. Understood. Most serial killers have mental and emotional flaws. Captain Yan was about to say something else when Chen Ge's phone suddenly vibrated. Xiao Ji Yu. Chen Ge took out his phone and was surprised. Why is this kid looking for me? He was trapped inside the interrogation room, and he could not leave, so he asked Captain Yan and the rest, can I take this call? It's from one of my employees. Quote, you can answer it here. The few officers placed their attention on Chen Ge and perked up their ears to listen. Chen Ge accepted the call, but before he could place the phone to his ear, he heard Ji Yu Feiyu's desperate scream coming from the other end. Brother Chen. Fanghua Apartments Block 3. Uncle Wang has already. Ha! The voice stopped abruptly, and Xiao Gu's phone seemed to have been knocked away by something, and it slammed into the wall. Only the sound of running footsteps could be heard on the other end. Fanghua Apartments Block 3. Chen Ge did not hang up. He listened to the sound on the other end, hoping to get more clues. The footsteps soon disappeared. It was unclear whether Xiao Jiyu had run to another floor or he was already dead. Chen Ge, what happened earlier? The few officers leaned over. It happened at Block 3 again. Chen Ge's eyes were scary. Those madmen have come after my employees. They are at Fanghua Apartments Block 3. The interrogation room was quiet for 2 seconds before everyone started to move. Inform the other people at the station. Go on duty immediately. Quote. If this was another time, Chen Ge would not have called the police. Even if he did, Captain Yan would not have helped him capture the members of the Society of Strange Tales just because of a few words from him. But now, everything was different. According to the information they had, the 2 people that Chen Ge had knocked out earlier were indeed involved in a murder case, and Chen Ge was not lying. Captain Yan, can you drive me back to New Century Park first? I need to get something important. Quote. OL. Wu, drive Xiao Chen. Captain Yan seemed to have changed into a different person. He walked out of the interrogation room and yelled at the people on duty, stop wasting time. Hurry up. Quote. Wait a minute. Chen Ge chased after him. Captain Yan, don't make too big a move. Don't startle them. This operation is probably premeditated. Don't worry. After getting the confirmation from Captain Yan, Chen Ge took OL Wu's car to return to New Century Park. He placed the ballpoint pen and the recorder inside his backpack. Since the police were there, he did not bring the hammer with him this time. The Society of Strange Tales targeted Xiao Jiyu, but their real target should be me. They want to use Xiao Jiyu to lure me there. Chen Ge did not plan to put himself in danger. He sat inside the police car and thought about it. Spending so much effort to use Xiao Jiyu as bait, they must have set up a trap, waiting for me to walk into it. Conservatively speaking, there should be 4 members lying in ambush at Fanghua Apartments. At 11:34 p.m., Chen Ge received a call from Captain Yan in the police car. Things are not looking good. The enemy is very cautious, and they seem to have discovered us. Captain Yan then sent a picture to Chen Ge. After our investigator entered the elevator, he saw a phone left inside, and there was a message that was being edited on it. It was Xiao Gu's phone in the picture, and there was a strange message in the WeChat input bar. Father killed us and placed us on the stairs. Big brother is lying behind me. Little brother is lying in front of me. Can you find us? What does that mean? Chen Ge was confused when he saw the message on Xiao Gu's phone. He did not quite understand what it meant. I suspect the group of madmen has discovered us, and that's why they purposely left this message in the elevator. You've already entered the 3rd building. Chen Ge had reminded Captain Yan earlier not to alert the enemy. The 2 teams are all in casual clothes, and they haven't entered Fanghua Apartments yet. The cars are parked at the intersection about 150 meters away from the area, and there are people waiting inside. Then how could they have been discovered? Could it be that there's a problem with your scouts? Quote. Impossible. The investigator who entered the 3rd building is one of our veterans. He has 7 years of experience, and he has helped us solve many dangerous cases. Captain Yan did not think there was anything wrong with his subordinate. Furthermore, he saw this phone when he opened the elevator. To set up this phone without being seen, it would have taken at least 3 minutes, and in those 3 minutes, our investigator still hasn't entered Fanghua Apartments. I understand what you mean. In other words, the suspect had already set up this phone before you arrived. When Chen Ge understood that, his expression shifted. Where is the investigator who found the phone now? He's still inside the 3rd building. He was the one who took the picture and sent it back. Oh no, hurry and get him back. Chen Ge knew very well that the Society of Strange Tales tricked Xiao Jiyu to deal with him. The phone with the strange message should have been prepared for him. After interacting with many ghosts, Chen Ge had discovered some patterns. Including the Red Spectre, most ghosts needed a medium to harm others. For example, he received a love letter from Zhang Ya, played Shu Yin's tape, and played the pen spirit game with a ballpoint pen. Ordinary people needed a special item to be the switch to access the other world. The message left on Xiao Gu's phone was actually a switch. Seeing the message was equivalent to being targeted by 1 or more unknown ghosts. All right, Captain Yan did not ask for the reason. He used the internal communicator to order the investigation team to temporarily retreat, but to his surprise, in just a few minutes, he lost contact with the investigator. Did something happen? Captain Yan did not hang up, so Chen Ge heard it loud and clear. I'll arrive in another 3 to 4 minutes. Do not send any more people in. The officers on the other side of the phone were discussing a solution. 10 seconds later, Chen Ge heard the sound of a car door opening. It sounded like someone had found Captain Yan. After the conversation, Captain Yan had him stay in the car and then took out his phone to tell Chen Ge, "Earlier, the investigator's disciple found me. His master sent him a WeChat message. When you tried to contact the investigator earlier, he didn't reply, right?" Chen Ge was even more confused. What did the investigator send to his disciple? Just 3 words, "Are you there? Are you there?" This message was definitely not sent by our investigator. Captain Yan's voice turned serious. An experienced investigator would not send a meaningless message to his disciple during the middle of a mission. If he needed anything or was in danger, the first person he would think of would be the commander. Quote, "Looks like the investigator is probably dead." Chen Ge did not say that out loud, he merely thought about it internally. Whether he's dead or not, we have to prepare for the worst. The investigator was in danger, so naturally, Captain Yan would not wait outside the residential area anymore. Inform Team 1 and Team 2 to move out immediately. Enter the 3rd building. Quote, "Captain Yan, don't be rash. The mental patient inside the building is very dangerous." Quote, "The situation has changed, so we have to use another plan. Give the phone to OL Wu and have him drive the car to my place and meet up with me." With a life on the line, Chen Ge knew that he could not persuade Captain Yan otherwise, so he gave in. "The others will be fine, but make sure that the officer who received the message doesn't enter the building. He might be targeted already." The investigator saw the message that Xiao Jiyu was editing on his phone, and then something happened. After that, he immediately sent a message to his disciple. Chen Ge had a feeling that there was something wrong with this. He thought back to when Xiao Jiyu called him, and the first thing he said seemed to be related to OL Wang. Xiao Jiyu had confirmed that he was working at the haunted house, so the chance of him patrolling Fanghua apartments at night was not high, so why would he appear at the 3rd building? The danger that Xiao Jiyu is in is probably because OL Wang sent him a message first. Chen Ge still wanted to say something to Captain Yan, but Captain Yan had already started the deployment, so he hung up. 3 minutes later, Chen Ge arrived at Fanghua Apartments. "Have you found the missing investigator?" "We've found him at the corner of the 2nd floor staircase. He's physically fine, but he's unconscious. According to the people at the scene, his pupils are dilated, and his face is pale." Captain Yan stood next to the car and held the internal communication device in his hand. His brows were furrowed. "What I'm curious about now is, how did the killer manage to knock out a healthy adult with basic combat knowledge in just a few minutes?" When the two conversed, the investigator had been carried out, and there were people taking care of him. Chen Ge glanced at the investigator's outfit. He looked like a normal person. As long as he did not take off his shirt and did not see the walkie-talkie, he would not be able to tell who he was. The Society of Strange Tales probably treated this undercover officer as a passerby. They view human life as worthless, and they will show no mercy even to the innocent, but this time, they've run into a wall. When Chen Ge went to the 24th floor for the first time, Zhu Shu made a request to the Society of Strange Tales, hoping that the Society of Strange Tales would help him escape from the police, but the Society of Strange Tales rejected him outright. Quote, "This small detail proved one thing. The Society of Strange Tales did not dare have a direct confrontation with the police. They were like rats that lived in the shadows of this city. They created trash and chewed on rotten meat, but they did not dare show themselves in the light." "Captain Yan, have you found the phone that was left in the elevator?" Chen Ge asked another important question. The unfinished message on Xiao Gu's phone was a trap left behind by the Society of Strange Tales. Reading it might trigger a bad omen. "It's been found by Team 1 and placed inside the evidence bag." Captain Yan did not realize the severity of the situation, but Chen Ge was different. This concerned several lives, so he did not dare waste any more time. "Captain Yan, the real target of those mental patients is me. I cannot run away from this." Then, he walked toward Fanghua Apartments. Wait a minute, if this was another victim, Captain Yan would have stopped them, but Chen Ge was different. He took out a walkie-talkie and shoved it into Chen Ge's hands. Do you know how to use it? Yes, when my haunted house had a lot of employees, everyone had one. That's good. Captain Yan was still worried, so he waved at Wu, who was driving. You two go in together. At least you can look after each other. Chen Ge did not reject Captain Yan's kindness. He entered Fanghua Apartments with Wu. To prevent unnecessary panic, Captain Yan did not inform the tenants, so the third building was eerily quiet. The dim light reflected on the white walls. Chen Ge and Wu walked to the elevator. Captain Yan told us to follow behind Team 2. We'll go to the 5th floor now. Wu had just confirmed the location of the two teams through the walkie-talkie. Stay behind me and don't wander off. It was rare for a victim to participate in an arrest, but considering the series of events that had happened to Chen Ge, Wu soon understood. The man beside him had used 3 weeks to fill up a row of filing cabinets at the Serious Crime Division. With that in mind, Wu nudged to the side and maintained a distance of 2 meters from Chen Ge. Wu, we'll go find Team 1 first. There's something wrong with that phone, and Team 1 is in danger. Chen Ge said urgently. The longer this dragged on, the greater the chance that Team 1 would be in danger. No, Captain Yan told you to follow Team 2. We'll go take a look first. If nothing happens to Team 1, we'll go meet up with Team 2. Okay. Wu hesitated for a long time before entering the elevator with Chen Ge. He pressed the button for the 8th floor. Team 1 and Team 2 are responsible for the stairs on the left and right. Team 1's progress is faster, so the chance of them running into danger is higher than Team 2. It's fine, Chen Ge answered casually. He saw the number on the monitor change bit by bit, but his eyes stopped at the extra number, 24. The two soon reached the 8th floor. By then, Team 1 had already reached the 9th floor. They searched floor by floor, and their progress was fast. Wu contacted the leader of Team 1 through the walkie-talkie, and the two crawled into the emergency exit to the 9th floor. They waited for a while before the leader of Team 1 and 2 people ran out from the corridor. Why did you bring him with you? The leader of Team 1 was very muscular. When Chen Ge was being interrogated at the station, this man had been sitting across from him. Captain Yan had called his name once, and it seemed to be Li Zheng. It was Captain Yan's order. I'm just following orders. Wu looked at the two people next to Li Zheng. How come there are only 3 people left in your team? I had Xiaojia and Cheng wait in the corridor to prevent the criminals from escaping when we enter the building. Li Zheng looked down the corridor. Didn't you run into them? Hearing that, Chen Ge had a bad feeling. The phone that you found inside the elevator, is it with them? Yes, what's wrong? Li Zheng had heard of Chen Ge's name for a long time. He seemed to remember something, and his brows furrowed. He held the flashlight and stood in the dark corridor shouting, Xiaojia. Cheng. Quote. The voice traveled down the corridor, and soon, a reply came from Li Zheng's walkie-talkie. Brother Zheng, I don't know what's going on with Xiaojia, but he keeps running up the stairs. We're on the 14th floor, and I just caught him, Xiaojia. What are you doing? You've lost your mind. Quote. The voice from the walkie-talkie suddenly became chaotic, and then there was the sound of something heavy falling. Cheng. Li Zheng held the walkie-talkie and shouted behind him. He led the rest of the team to rush up the stairs. Chen Ge and Wu chased after him. They rushed to the 14th floor, and Cheng was lying on the ground with his hands over his face. Blood seeped out from between his fingers. Wu, you two send Cheng down now. Quote. Brother Zheng, I'm fine. You need to go find Xiaojia. He looks like he's possessed. Li Zheng moved Cheng's hand away to look. His cheek was bitten, and there was a wound on the back of his hand. That phone, is it with Xiaojia? Of everyone, only Chen Ge's emotions were relatively stable. Did the two of you read the message on the phone? I didn't. Xiaojia glanced at it when he put the phone into the evidence bag, Cheng answered honestly. So, it's related to that message. Chen Ge thought back to the content of the message, and it was very strange. He thought about it in his heart. Father killed us and placed us on the stairs. The first two sentences of the message should be hinting at the stairs, but what does the sequence of brother and brother mean? And why did they have to go look for them? Quote, while Chen Ge was thinking, Li Jung had already led his team up to the 15th floor. "Oh, Wu, you stay here and watch over Xiaojia. I'll go up to take a look." Chen Ge did not give Wu the chance to speak and ran up the stairs. The first investigator who saw the message fainted, and the second person who saw the message, Xiaojia, seemed to have gone crazy. Why are the symptoms different? Li Jung and the rest did not dare split up, but they were afraid that they would miss the floor that Xiaojia was on, so they ran up the stairs. Chen Ge did not have that concern. After he reached the 15th floor, he walked to the elevator. When the door opened, he pressed the button for the 23rd floor. He planned to go to the most dangerous floor to take a look. After all, Xiao Jiyu had mentioned this floor on the phone. Hopefully, Xiao Jiyu will be fine. The elevator door slowly closed, and Chen Ji's finger rested on the button of the recorder. If he had come alone, he might have fallen prey to the unknown tricks of the Society of Strange Tales. Unfortunately, this time, he had come with the police, so he had the advantage in terms of numbers. The number on the screen kept changing. When the elevator reached the 21st floor, Chen Ji's own phone suddenly vibrated. He swiped the screen, and to his surprise, it was a message from Xiao Gu's phone. "Are you there?" The moment he saw the message, Chen Ge replied to him with one sentence. The person did not seem to expect such a direct reply. 10 seconds later, there was a new message. "I'm hiding inside the dresser in room 3239. There seems to be something around here. Give me a general description of the thing." Chen Ge was too lazy to type, so he sent a voice message. "I can't see clearly. It's dark outside, but I can feel their presence. Don't you have a phone? Why don't you turn on the flashlight?" Quote, "I'll be discovered. Then how did you get into room 3239? Do you have the key to this room?" "No, the door was open, so I hid inside. Where's OL Wang?" "OL Wang." The conversation was fast. On Chen Ji's side, the other person was typing, but there was no message. Did I kill the conversation? Chen Ge waited for a long time, but there was still no reply. He took out his phone to send another message. "Are you there?" The elevator reached the 23rd floor. During this period, Chen Ge sent out 13, "Are you there?" When he sent out the 14th, he realized that he had been blacklisted. "You're the one who harassed me, and you're the one who blocked me. Are you crazy?" He walked out of the elevator and pressed the button on the recorder. The blood-stained tape slowly turned. Chen Ji's pupils narrowed, and the influence of the darkness on him was minimized. "If you're crazy, you need to be treated as soon as possible." His nerves tensed, he leaned against the wall and slowly walked down the corridor. Xiaojia lost control after reading the message on the phone and bit his partner. Ghosts hiding in the dark should have the power to influence a living person's mind. The blood face from the Society of Strange Tales has a similar power, but the blood face has to get close to the target and change into the same face as the target before it can be controlled. This is a special kind of ghost. Normally, ghosts with this kind of special power are not very strong, like the pen spirit. When Chen Ge arrived, he did not bring the cleaver or hammer. He reached into his shirt pocket with one hand, gripped the ballpoint pen, and touched the wall with the other, afraid that one of the doors would suddenly open and a ghost would crawl out. Counting the numbers on the door, Chen Ge soon arrived at room 3239. He pulled the lock, but the door did not budge. This should be the room. He knocked on the door. "Is anyone there?" The blood-stained tape made an ear-piercing noise, as if Shuyan was warning Chen Ge. After knocking a few times, to Chen Ji's surprise, a man's voice came from room 3239. "Who is it? In the middle of the night? What's the matter?" Quote, "Someone's there." Chen Ge was actually more surprised than the man in the room. He wondered if the man was being manipulated by the members of the Society of Strange Tales, or the man in the room was a member of the Society of Strange Tales. He was extremely nervous and paid close attention. The security doors in Fanghua apartments were double-layered. Soon, the inner door was opened. A man about 1.7 meters tall stood in the room with a cold expression. "What's the matter? I'm here to help the police chase after the fugitive. Our people will be here soon." Chen Ge's tone was similar to Captain Yan's. "Another fugitive." The man's face turned even paler, and his brows creased together. "Hubby, what's going on?" A woman in her 30s walked out from the living room as well. "They said another fugitive is here. Didn't we just capture a fugitive here last time? This place is too dangerous. It's happened so many times already." The woman's voice was shrill. "I've already told you to move away, but you wouldn't listen." Quote, "Move away. Where do we live?" The man was furious. Neither of them backed down, and they started to argue. Chen Ge looked at this coldly. He still could not confirm whether they were members of the Society of Strange Tales or not, but he instinctively felt that there was something off about these two. When people are arguing, they will subconsciously look at each other and even make some physical movements, but these two don't. Their bodies are very stiff. Are they trying to hold themselves back, or are they putting on a show for me? After a few more words of argument, the woman entered the room while the man stayed at the door. He looked like he was holding back his anger, and his attitude toward Chen Ge was very harsh. "We're just tenants of this building. We haven't seen any fugitives or heard any strange voices. You'd better go ask someone else." Normally, when a stranger knocked on their door at night, no one would answer the door. Chen Ge had expected that. If the man opened the door and invited him in, then he would have to be even more careful. "I just want to ask you a few questions." Chen Ge pointed at the houses next to them. "How much do you know about your neighbors?" "There are no tenants on either side. There's a man who lives alone on the opposite side. He moved in about 2 months ago. I don't see him leave the house often, so I haven't had any interaction with him." "When was the last time you saw him?" "Wednesday night. I was working overtime, so I came back 3 hours later than usual. I ran into him in the elevator." Wednesday. The elevator. Chen Ge instantly connected the man to the members of the Society of Strange Tales. "Do you know the man's name?" "I don't know." The man closed the door after saying that. The sound of the door closing echoed down the corridor. Chen Ge stood in the middle of the corridor. He turned around to look at the room opposite 3239. Are the members of the Society of Strange Tales hiding in the opposite room? There was suspicion in his eyes. The couple from 3239 looked normal on the surface, but they had, accidentally, revealed the most important information to Chen Ge, Wednesday in the elevator. Only those who had joined the Society of Strange Tales would know that. Did they say that on purpose? To lure me to the opposite room? Quote. Chen Ge could not tell whether this was a coincidence or a trap. Ever since he obtained the black phone, he had become more and more cautious. Gripping the ballpoint pen in his right hand, his left hand grabbed the doorknob of the room opposite 3239. Chen Ge pulled slightly, and the door opened outward. "It's not locked." The moment he realized that the door was not locked, Chen Ge immediately retreated. The real trap should be the room opposite 3239. The moment he loosened his grip, a small blood-red hand reached out and grabbed at him. The two were only several centimeters away from each other. What is this? In the dark corridor, the door creaked open slowly. On the inside of the door was a boy with short limbs, a large head, and a face that was purplish from being squeezed. The thing that made Chen Ge even more worried was that the boy was wearing a bloody shirt. The deformed mouth slowly opened, revealing the crooked teeth inside. The boy appeared to be smiling. "Father killed us and placed us at the door. Big brother hid behind the door. He told me to hide behind the door." As he said that, another deformed head poked out from inside the room. The face was swollen, and the eyeballs hung from the face. "Father killed us and placed us at the door. Little brother hid behind the door. He told me to hide behind the door." The two boys crawled out from the room with strange expressions. They stood before Chen Ge one after the other. Bright red blood dripped from their bodies, turning into threads of blood that spread in all directions. They were like millipedes crawling on the walls and the floor at high speed. The atmosphere in the corridor became oppressive, but the Society of Strange Tales was not done yet. A white shadow slowly crawled out from room 3239. It was the white shadow that had escaped from the woman who had killed Shu Yin. The monster only had a third of its body left, and it looked like it was running for its life. It crawled on the blood vessels, but its body was soon dragged back into the room. Then there was the sound of chewing inside the room. There are other monsters inside the room. Unfortunately, Chen Ge was right. A hand covered in blood vessels reached out. It looked like a normal person, but the thing that alarmed Chen Ge was that the hand seemed to have been severely scalded before. There were no palm prints. The air seemed to freeze, and the smell of blood permeated the corridor. The hand pressed on the head of one of the boys like a father caressing the deformed head. "He has found us. Now it's your turn to find him." The man's voice was hoarse, like he had consumed something highly corrosive. Just his voice was enough to send chills down Chen Ge's spine. Hearing the man's words, the two boys in red revealed extremely happy smiles on their faces. They replied in unison, "Okay, father." The two deformed faces were closing in. Shu Yin could not even deal with one red specter, much less two red specters. Chen Ge felt a pressure that he had not felt before. Without any hesitation, he called out the name on the love letter. Zhang Ya. Like a drop of water falling into a deep pool, Chen Ge's shadow rippled. The rapidly spreading blood vessels suddenly stopped. Even the hand that dangled outside the door, without any palm prints, trembled slightly. Waves of black hair crawled out from Chen Ge's shadow and slammed against the walls on both sides. It used the most direct and violent method to crush all the blood vessels that got close to him. The temperature on the 23rd floor dropped again. Zhang Ya's delicate face was stuck to Chen Ge's back. Under the bone-chilling coldness hid a soul that was as bright as fire. "This is the ghost in your heart." The person behind the door slowly walked out. He was wearing a bright red jacket and a mask, but even with the mask, it could not completely hide his face that was completely ruined. "Be careful, Zhang Ya." Chen Ge retreated decisively. In a battle between red specters, he could not help much. Even without Chen Ge's reminder, or rather, even if Chen Ge did, Zhang Ya would not listen to him. Without any nonsense or probing, Zhang Ya's eyes were filled with resentment. Her black hair was like a huge wave that swept past the wall and crashed into the two boys. The blood vessels and the black hair tangled together. Chen Ge hid behind Zhang Ya, and his mind was occupied with other things. The person controlling the two boys should be patient 10 from the third sick hall. The face, body, and even the fingerprints on his hands had been burned away. In terms of appearance, he matched patient 10. The haunted house has reconstructed all the sick rooms in the third sick hall, and the records of this patient are carved on the walls of room 10. The reason he went crazy is because he accidentally caused the death of his two children. His heart was filled with guilt, and the continuous trauma caused his mind to crumble. Everything matched up. Chen Ge really did not expect that he would run into the scariest patient 10 at the third sick hall that night. He had underestimated the determination of the Society of Strange Tales to get rid of him. After Wei Wu and Kong Xiongming lost contact, the Society of Strange Tales had already started to plan tonight. With a madman like Wu Fei around, they would not make the same mistake. Tonight, the Society of Strange Tales would come out in full force. Zhang Ya's appearance did not give Chen Ge a sense of security. Patient 10 alone had 2 red specters, and other than him, the Society of Strange Tales had 6 other members. Bang! Blood vessels exploded. Zhang Ya's black hair curled around a boy's neck, and he was slammed to the ground. However, strangely enough, the boy did not feel any pain. In fact, a smile appeared on his ugly face. "Big brother, I can't breathe anymore." The already uncoordinated head grew larger, and blood vessels appeared on his face. His head was about to explode from the grip of the black hair. At this moment of life and death, the other red specter and the man by the door did not show any intention of helping. In fact, the man ordered the big brother to jump over Zhang Ya and attack Chen Ge first. The black hair wrapped around the little brother, and after a cruel scream, the blood vessels were not absorbed by the hair. Instead, they seeped out from the gaps and reformed into a boy not far away. His head seemed to have shrunk, and the red specter on his body dimmed. Other than that, there was nothing else. How much longer do you want to wait? The man with the ruined face seemed to be pained, and there was a trace of anger in his voice. We just want to play it safe. After all, the ghost in his heart is not normal. The front door of room 3239 opened again, and the couple walked out. The man had a thin shadow on his shoulder while the woman was walking upside down. The blood face on the back of her head was smiling wickedly. The two walked out with a smile, thinking that victory was within their grasp. However, to their surprise, the moment the front door opened, the black hair curled up and curled around their bodies like snakes. Dealing with 4 ghosts at the same time, and 2 of them were red specters. The man and woman shared a look, and they saw the shock and fear in each other's eyes. Didn't you say that you can hold back the ghosts on the target? The woman screamed, and then she could not make another sound. The black hair pierced into the blood face's face. The man was also wailing. The thin shadow tried to crawl back into the man's body, but it was pulled out bit by the black hair. 1 against 4. The man with the ruined face slowly gripped his scarred hands. He thought that this was a sure win, but something unexpected still happened. The black hair swam in the blood world like a raging river. Zhongya in a red dress stood quietly in the middle of the corridor. When she heard the man with the ruined face, she slowly moved her eyes away from Chen Ge. Being stared at by a red specter, the man with the ruined face felt pressured. Compared to the eyes that were filled with hatred and resentment, his cruelty was nothing. He could feel the malicious intent coming from the woman. Stop her. The 2 boys controlled the blood vessels to try to stop Zhongya, but the black hair was like a wave, and they could only protect themselves. Useless. The man with the ruined face had a strange appearance. His power was far from matching Zhongya's. He mainly relied on the 2 boys that were made from the souls of his own children. Being scolded by their father, the 2 boys screamed. Blood vessels leaked out from their swollen heads, and they used their bodies to block Zhongya's path. Under the assault of the black hair, the bodies of the 2 boys were crushed again and again. Blood vessels leaked out from the black hair, and the speed at which their bodies recovered slowed down. There can't be such a powerful red specter. Just how many specters has she consumed? Quote. The man with the ruined face could not believe that after planning for so long and working together with the other members, he would still be suppressed. A trace of regret appeared in his eyes. Seeing the 2 boys being crushed again and again, his heart was dripping blood. Just a little bit more. Room 3239 and the other 2 rooms were all set up. If Chen Ge took 1 step into one of them, he would be killed instantly. He would not even have the chance to summon the specter. When the boys were crushed for the 5th time, the scar on the man's face trembled violently. An emotion that he had not felt for many years appeared in his heart, fear. The man grabbed his arm, and his fingers dug into the scar. Blood dyed his fingernails red. What a horrible experience. The scar was torn open, and blood leaked out. The man with the ruined face seemed to be acting up at that moment. His hands kept tightening. What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? Quote. The 2 boys were crushed again and again, but they regenerated and charged forward again. They tried everything they could, but they could not stop Zhongya. She was getting close. Blood dripped down his fingertips. The man with the ruined face finally had the intention to retreat. He looked at Chen Ge, who was hiding behind Zhongya. Looks like I can only sacrifice the thing. He pulled his finger out of the wound on his arm, and the blood streaked across the air. He took out a wooden box from his pocket, and the inside of the box was stained with black blood. The evil spirits present all showed signs of losing control. The blood seemed to have a great attraction to them. Disfigured face gave some order in secret. Then, he took the wooden box and ran to the other side of the corridor, abandoning the 2 boys in red. Zhongya's eyes were filled with greed as her long black hair swayed on the ground. She looked like a bulimic who saw her favorite food. After twisting the 2 boys for the 7th time, Zhongya lost her patience. All the black hair behind her surged toward the disfigured man. The blood vessels that exploded from the 2 boys scattered on the ground, turning into tiny droplets of blood. They moved behind Zhongya at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. They moved faster and faster, and soon, the blood vessels from the two boys converged. A monster that looked like Siamese twins walked around Zhang Ya's black hair and was reborn in the blood vessels. Not good. Without hesitation, Chen Ge turned and ran toward the stairs behind him. The man with the ruined face was willing to use himself as bait to create a chance to kill Chen Ge. "We've found you." The conjoined monster crawled toward Chen Ge at an alarming speed. Chen Ge had seriously underestimated the power of a red specter. The monster was restricted by Zhang Ya's black hair, and it was unable to use its full power. With its ability to rebirth multiple times and its super-fast movement speed, if Chen Ge ran into it alone, the chance of him surviving was basically zero. Shu Yin, Chen Yalin, quote, it was time for his life. Chen Ge summoned all the ghosts that he could to buy time for himself. Inside the narrow building, a girl with a purple face and a man in half a red shirt appeared at the same time. They stood before the conjoined monster. However, to Chen Ge's surprise, the conjoined monster completely ignored Shu Yin and the pen spirit. Its fingers that were covered in blood vessels slashed at the pen spirit and Shu Yin's bodies like sharp needles. The wounds burst open, and Shu Yin was knocked to the ground. One of his arms was torn off. The pen spirit was heavily injured the moment the blood vessels touched it. Its body started to fade. However, the conjoined monster's target was not them. After severely injuring the two ghosts, it did not slow down and charged at Chen Ge. There were no other ghosts on him. For the first time, Chen Ge felt like he had too few employees at his haunted house. The two heads of the conjoined monster radiated foul odor. The facial features on the purplish face shifted, and the crooked mouth opened. The eyes that were disproportionate to the face stared at Chen Ge. "I've got you." When the two were only 1 or 2 meters away from each other, the conjoined monster suddenly slowed down. Its bulging eyes turned to the side, and the man who had lost an arm and was covered in wounds was using his remaining hand to hold onto its calf. The small red hand pierced into Shu Yin's arm. The conjoined monster lifted Shu Yin up from the ground and tried to tear him in half. His body was about to split in half, and the wound left by the person he loved the most started to bleed again. So painful, so painful. The half-red specter, Shu Yin, did not care about his body that was about to be torn apart. He used all his strength to bite at the conjoined monster. The battle between ghosts was extremely cruel. Chen Ge knew that Shu Yin was no match for a red specter. He was just buying time for himself. Meet up with the police immediately. He raced down the corridor. When he reached the stairwell, a man wearing glasses ran up the stairs. When Chen Ge saw his face, his heart skipped a beat. It was not the police but Manager Huang from Fanghua Apartments. "What happened? Come with me." Manager Huang gasped for air. He held the railing and reached out toward Chen Ge like he was going to grab Chen Ge and run. Looking at the hand that reached toward him, Chen Ge moved away. On the night he entered the Society of Strange Tales, Manager Huang had been in the 3rd building. When he came down, he had seen Manager Huang scolding Xiao Jiyu. Another suspicious point was the extra number that appeared on the elevator. It was a non-existent 24th floor. As the property manager, Manager Huang definitely knew about this, but the property management did not do anything about it. In fact, deleting the number didn't require much effort. Furthermore, the members of the Society of Strange Tales were gathered at this residential area, but there was no video of any of them on the surveillance. Someone must have done something behind the scenes. In that case, one of the members of the Society of Strange Tales was probably related to Fanghua Apartments. Seeing Chen Ge's suspicious gaze, Manager Huang knew that he had been discovered. He tore off his disguise and slowly turned around to reveal the face that was made up of blood vessels. "I don't want to do this, but I have no choice. After joining the society, I have also become a monster." Seeing Chen Ge suddenly pull out a walkie-talkie from his pocket like a magic trick, the latter half of Manager Huang's sentence was stuck in his throat. "You're the police." His reaction was one beat too slow. When he realized this, Chen Ge had already received the reply from Li Zheng, the leader of Team 1. "Hang in there. We'll be there soon." Hurried footsteps came from downstairs. Li Zheng, the leader of Action Team 1, was not far away from them. Manager Huang's face darkened. When he created his ghost stories, there had been victims who had wanted to call the police, but those people had to use their phones to call the police. Who would have thought that Chen Ge would pull out a walkie-talkie from his pocket without warning? Furthermore, this was completely different from how he had acted before. Resentment, screams, and fear were the best food for a specter. To avoid being devoured by the specter on their body, they would be forced to do some cruel and scary things. Manager Huang knew that very well. However, this man before him had used his own power to feed 3 specters, and one of them was a top red specter. Based on the standard of the Society of Strange Tales, this man had taken at least 10 lives. But this murderer, whose hands were covered in blood, had chosen to call the police at the most crucial moment. And he had even used a walkie-talkie. Manager Huang's anger boiled. He knew that things had gotten out of hand that night. Even if he managed to kill Chen Ge, he would not be able to use his identity anymore. It's all because of you. Things that happened in the shadows of the city had to be dealt with by the rules of the shadows. That was the unspoken rule, but no one had expected that a traitor would appear among them. The blood face's reaction was much more intense than Manager Huang's. The face that was weaved from blood vessels leapt at Chen Ge, and as it did, its facial features started to take on a 90% resemblance to Chen Ge. It's this thing again. Chen Ge gripped the walkie-talkie tightly and swung it at the blood face, but the arm that he swung with all his might passed through the blood face. He could not even touch the man. If I kill you or take control of your body for a short period of time, I'll still have a chance to deceive them. Chen Ge was the only one who knew Supervisor Huang's identity. As long as Bloody Face entered Chen Ge's mind and made him shut up forever, Supervisor Huang was confident that he could absolve himself. The blood face got closer, and just as it was about to touch Chen Ge's face, his pupils shrunk to a narrow slit like a cat's, and a chilling presence radiated from them. Yin-yang vision. The bloody face only paused for half a second before Chen Ge pushed off the ground and dashed forward, making a crazy move. He lowered his head and rammed into Manager Huang, and both of them rolled down the stairs. His arm was bruised, and pain came from everywhere. However, what made Chen Ge feel strange was that the pain only appeared for a while before disappearing. When his vision recovered, Chen Ge jumped up and was about to run downstairs when he realized that his joints were wrapped in a layer of black hair. Zhang Ya. Other than some superficial wounds, Chen Ge was unscathed, but in stark contrast to him was Manager Huang, who was dragged back upstairs by the black hair. The bloody face was pierced through by the black hair. Manager Huang's mind was muddled, and his body was twisted. Turning his head around in confusion, Chen Ge stood at the corner of the 22nd floor and looked up. Zhang Ya, in her red dress, stood quietly on the 23rd floor. Behind her, there were red conjoined monsters, blood faces, and thin ghosts tied to the black hair. They filled up the whole stairwell. The red dress was like blood, and the black hair kept spreading under her feet. Many ugly and scary monsters screamed and wailed inside the hair before they were slowly consumed. Honestly, when he saw this, Chen Ge was quite flustered. Taking a step forward, Zhang Ya walked toward Chen Ge. The bone-chilling coldness and the heavy scent of blood assaulted Chen Ge's senses. There seemed to be some kind of change happening to Zhang Ya. She had probably gotten what she wanted. The lowered head rose up, and the black hair slid down. Zhang Ya's face stopped several centimeters away from the tip of Chen Ge's nose. She looked into Chen Ge's eyes, and her pale, bloodless hands were holding a normal wooden box. For me, once Chen Ge opened his mouth, he felt a chill crawl into his body. He accepted the wooden box and looked inside. The pool of black blood had disappeared, and in its place was an ugly and deformed mannequin. The ruined face. The mannequin was a miniature version of the man with the ruined face. His mask had been removed, and other than his eyes, the rest of his facial features had been flattened by the scars. He had no nose or lips, and he looked like a demon from a nightmare. You've made him into a toy. The ruined face inside the box was a soul that had been extracted from its body. The face swayed left and right, and Chen Ge could sense the evil presence that radiated from it. When Zhang Ya dealt with Zhu Shu, she had extracted her soul and made her into a toy. Looking at the ruined face struggling inside the box, Chen Ge's hair stood on end. This was the second scariest present that he had received in his life, and the first was the love letter that he received when he first met Zhongya. Thank you, I really like this present of yours. You were the first girl to give me a present. Hearing Chen Ge's answer, Zhongya moved her eyes away. Her head was lowered. She did not want Chen Ge to see her expression, but Chen Ge could sense that there was a trace of happiness in her heart. The black hair twisted around, and Chen Ge could not believe that when they were having a friendly conversation on the 22nd floor, the black hair on the 23rd floor was devouring those scary monsters. The black hair that spread on the 23rd floor rushed at Zhongya, and Chen Ge could even see Shu Yin's broken body in it. His mouth fell open, and he quickly told Zhongya with a happy expression, "Wait a minute." The young man who screamed, "Han and the girl in the school uniform are our people, please don't hurt them accidentally." Quote. The good atmosphere was ruined, and when Zhongya raised her head again, she had returned to her normal self. Shu Yin and the pen spirit were kicked out. The black hair crushed the other monsters, and it was dyed red. The black hair retracted, and Zhongya's body swayed like she was sleepy. She raised her head to look deeply into Chen Ge's eyes before walking past Chen Ge and disappearing. The chill on Chen Ge's back did not dissipate after Zhongya left. It felt like a pair of resentful eyes were staring at him from behind. After 1 or 2 minutes, when Li Zheng and the rest's screams came from downstairs, the chill disappeared. Chen Ge's body froze, and he collapsed to the ground. He summoned back the heavily injured Shu Yin and the pen spirit before shoving the strange wooden box into his pocket. The presents that Zhongya had given him were scarier than the last. First, it was candy made from ghosts, and now there was a toy made from the soul of a murderer. I know she's doing this out of kindness, and I'm quite embarrassed that a girl keeps giving me presents like this, but the key thing is, Chen Ge turned around with a bitter smile. With the light from the phone, he realized with a shock that his shadow did not look like himself. The dim light fell on his body, and the shadow was the shape of a long-haired woman. We've found Xiao Jia. He's unconscious, but he's fine. Li Zheng paused before continuing. But that Chen Ge seems to be in trouble. Something happened to Xiao Chen. Where are you? I'll be there in a minute. Captain Yan's voice came from the walkie-talkie. Perhaps he was traumatized by something. After all, when we received the call for help, he and the 4 madmen were all on the 23rd floor. He probably ran into something scary. Li Zheng looked at Chen Ge, who sat motionless on the stairs, and he did not feel good. Initially, he did not have a good impression of Chen Ge, especially in the interrogation room. Chen Ge's attitude could be said to be very arrogant. However, when he heard Chen Ge's call for help, he let go of all his prejudice and led his team members to rush over, but they were still one step too late. As the leader of Action Team 1, Li Zheng had met a few survivors who had escaped from a crime scene. The physical injuries would heal with time, but the mental trauma would follow them for life. If only we could move faster. He wanted to encourage Chen Ge to be stronger, but he did not know what to say. Sitting on the stairs between the 22nd and 23rd floors, Chen Ge had been staring at his own shadow for more than 10 minutes. He realized something scary. His shadow did not appear to be able to change back. Even if the light shone on him, it was obvious that the two shadows had overlapped. Some kind of change must have happened to Zhongya. Before this, she was hiding in my shadow, but now, she's trying to become my shadow. Chen Ge thought back to the strange reaction that had occurred to Zhongya when she saw the ruined face. The black blood stains inside the wooden box must be very important to her. Black blood, a red specter. Is there some kind of connection between the two? After absorbing the black blood, will her power break through some kind of limit? Quote. The more he thought about it, the more confused he became. Chen Ge looked at his own shadow. Zhongya's shadow was slowly replacing his own. It looked like she had made up her mind to follow him for the rest of her life until he no longer had a shadow. His fingers touched the wooden box. Honestly, this was the first time that a girl had given a present to Chen Ge. Even though he felt like something was wrong, the truth was undeniable. This is a strange feeling, he grumbled. He muttered to himself. No matter what Zhang Ya would become in the future, there was one thing he was sure of. He would never speak ill of Zhang Ya behind her back. There is no need to worry for now. Last time, Zhang Ya only consumed half of the red-robed old man's body and fell into a deep slumber for a few days. In the end, she only slowly woke up after I called her many times. This time, Zhang Ya has consumed 2 complete red specters, 2 bloody faces, a thin ghost shadow, and that mysterious black blood stain. To completely digest these things, she will need to sleep for a long time. Zhang Ya was Chen Ge's main fighting force. With Zhang Ya around, Chen Ge's haunted house could suppress the Society of Strange Tales. Without Zhang Ya, Chen Ge would only be able to deal with one red specter with his entire family. The ruined man, the couple, and manager Huang. Other than the 4 of them, there are 3 people left in the Society of Strange Tales. Chen Ge's expression was calm, and no one could guess what he was thinking. The remaining 3 are number 10, the chairperson, and Wu Fei. I still cannot confirm their identities. But one thing is for sure, all 3 of them are extremely dangerous and cunning. Quote, "The Society of Strange Tales failed to kill me even though they sent out all their forces. They probably won't make another move in the near future." Now that Zhang Ya was asleep, even though Chen Ge had temporarily escaped from Zhang Ya's care, he had entered a period where his power was lacking. If the Society of Strange Tales sent out 2 more red specters, they would be able to destroy his haunted house. People would only cherish things when they could not have them. With Zhang Ya asleep, Chen Ge suddenly felt very insecure. The number of visitors has increased over the past few days, and the haunted house has collected more screams from the visitors. It's time for another round of lucky draws. Chen Ge actually rejected the black phone's lucky draw, but he could not think of any other way to increase his power in such a short amount of time. Chen Ge had a deep understanding of this saying. That black blood stain is not normal. When Zhang Ya awakens again, she might break through a certain limit. That black blood stain is not normal. When Zhang Ya awakens again, she might break through a certain limit. Scarier than a red specter, Chen Ge did not dare to think any further. Holding the railing on the stairs, Chen Ge stood up rather awkwardly. His body was covered in dust, his arms were scratched, and he looked like he was in a trance. Be careful, Li Zheng had been guarding him. Seeing Chen Ge stand up, he quickly went to help him. I'll be fine. Go and find Xiaojiyu and Ol. Wang. I can still hold on. Chen Ge had no idea why Li Zheng's attitude toward him had suddenly changed for the better. He believed that Li Zheng must have misunderstood something, but he was too lazy to explain. The 2 returned to the 23rd floor. The symbiotic ghost had been torn apart and consumed by Zhang Ya. The souls of the few members of the Society of Strange Tales were heavily damaged, and they were delirious. The scariest man was lying in the middle of the corridor like a vegetable, his eyes hollow. Li Zheng frowned as he looked at the few members of the Society of Strange Tales, and a strange thought appeared in his mind. How come it looks like they are the victims? No one knew what had happened on the 23rd floor. As the only person who knew, Chen Ge's answer was that he had fallen down the stairs and hit his head. He could not remember much, but he knew that he was being chased. Pushing open the door to room 3239, Li Zheng smelled a faded scent of blood. When he ran into the bathroom, he realized that a family of 3 had fainted on the ground. Their wrists were slit open like they were bleeding. They're still breathing. Help me, call an ambulance. Quote. Team 2 had arrived. They carried the real victims out. Chen Ge could not help much, so he studied the strange patterns that were drawn in the corner of the room silently. The blood patterns appeared to be some kind of unique language. When Chen Ge got closer, he realized that the ghosts on him were all shivering. A language that can make ghosts tremble in fear. The foundation of the Society of Strange Tales sure is deep. He was thankful that he had not entered the room earlier. After studying it for several minutes, he took out his phone to snap a picture of all the patterns. Without the blood supply, the patterns on the wall soon faded and lost their function. Exiting room 3239, Chen Ge and Li Zheng entered the room opposite. The decoration inside the room was shocking. 3 ropes hung in the middle of the living room. The fainted Ol. Wang and Xiao Jiyu were tossed under the first two ropes, and the third knot appeared to be prepared for Chen Ge. Wang and Xiao Jiyu were sent to the hospital, but Chen Ge stayed behind. He cooperated with Team 2 to clean up the mess on the 23rd floor. Seeing that he was still on the front line despite his injuries, the other office's impression of him increased. Standing in the room opposite room 3239, Chen Ge avoided the other office's gaze and took out the black phone. When the man with the ruined face was made into a doll by Zhang Ya, the phone had vibrated, but he had been too busy to check it. He swiped the screen, and an announcement appeared. After the death of the man with the ruined face, the third sick hall's trial mission completion rate had increased to 80%. I'll get the reward when the completion rate reaches 90%. I'm still 10% away. Chen Ge looked at the phone. When the completion rate of the third sick hall's trial mission was over 90%, he would get a trial mission reward. After wiping out the Society of Strange Tales, he would get a hidden mission reward that came with the third sick hall. The black phone is indirectly encouraging me to fight against the Society of Strange Tales. Why does it hate the Society of Strange Tales so much? After interacting with the Society of Strange Tales for so long, Chen Ge had a deeper understanding of them. Each of them had a specter that came from behind the door. To provide for these specters, or rather, to prevent themselves from being consumed by the specters, they had no choice but to create more ghost stories to satisfy the various needs of the specters. From a certain perspective, they could not be called humans anymore, they were more like puppets controlled by the ghosts. This was the fundamental difference between Chen Ge and most members of the Society of Strange Tales. I have a feeling the Society of Strange Tales is not as simple as they seem. The logo on their flyer is a blood-red door. This bunch of madmen must know more about the world behind the door than I do. Perhaps the mysterious chairperson is the ghost behind the door. A sense of danger rose in Chen Ge's heart, and he felt like he was running out of ghosts at his haunted house. Xiao Chen. The door was pushed open, and Captain Yan walked in. Chen Ge pocketed the black phone, sat on the sofa, and pretended to be weak. Captain Yan, how can I help you? See for yourself. Captain Yan took out Xiao Gu's phone from the evidence bag. 25 minutes ago, Xiao Jiyu had received a strange message on his WeChat. Chen Ge, I'll remember your name. This message was sent using the phone of the security guard, Wang Dejin. We searched the entire 23rd floor, but we couldn't find the phone of the victim, Wang Dejin. From this, we can deduce that there are others. They took Wang Dejin's phone. Captain Yan placed Xiao Gu's phone on the coffee table. Other than that, I have another question. Why would your name be in the killer's information? Security guard Wang Dejin was Lao Wang's full name. The reason why Xiao Jiyu entered Block 3 was because of Lao Wang. The person who took old Wang's phone should be the mastermind behind everything that happened tonight. Chen Ge could understand what the man meant by that. The mastermind had planned everything meticulously, but he had underestimated Zhang Ya's power and underestimated Chen Ge's cautiousness. If not for Zhang Ya, or if Chen Ge had been dragged into those two rooms due to carelessness, he would have been dead for sure. There would have been no chance of escape. Thinking about it now, Chen Ge still had some lingering fear. The killer actively sent you a message. This proves two things. 1, he is not afraid, and 2, you've done something to anger him. Captain Yan put Xiao Gu's phone back into the evidence bag. Both of these are not good news for you. They might launch an even crazier revenge against you. The Society of Strange Tales had lost 4 members, and even the man with 2 red specters had been turned into a toy. If this was Chen Ge, he would have been angered to death. Remember my name. Is this some kind of threat? Chen Ge looked at Captain Yan, who turned to leave, and a thought crossed his mind. He jumped up from the sofa. Wait a minute. What's wrong? Captain Yan was shocked by Chen Ge's sudden movement. The phone. The time the message was sent. Chen Ge took the evidence bag from Captain Yan and opened it. The message had been sent 25 minutes ago. 25 minutes ago, the man had just died, and Li Zheng and the rest had not arrived yet. There is another member of the Society of Strange Tales hiding inside this building. This person is most likely the mastermind. Quote. Chen Ge's eyes sharpened. The man had witnessed the whole process, but due to Zhang Ya, he did not show himself. The killer is hiding inside this building. Captain Yan nodded. We've secured all the exits, and the roads around Fanghua apartments have been sealed. Temporarily, there are no suspicious people. Don't worry, as long as he is inside this building, he won't be able to escape. Quote. The remaining 3 members of the Society of Strange Tales were the hardest to deal with. Chen Ge did not place his hope on Captain Yan. He gripped his hands together, and his knuckles cracked. He felt like he had missed something. The man is very smart. The message was sent 25 minutes ago, so he has probably left already, but how did he get past the police? Looking at the message on Xiao Gu's phone, Chen Ge was suddenly reminded of something. After Xiao Jia saw the message on Xiao Gu's phone, he lost his mind and bit his partner. However, the first investigator who entered the building only fainted after seeing the message. The two had different symptoms. Captain Yan, is the first undercover officer you sent awake now. Who has been taking care of him? Quote. He's lying inside the police car, unconscious. The ambulance arrived 20 minutes ago, so he's probably at the hospital now. The ambulance arrived 20 minutes ago. The clock on the wall ticked silently. The People's Hospital was very quiet at 2 a.m. When most of the patients were asleep, a pair of eyes that were almost completely white slowly opened. Chen Ge, he uttered involuntarily, and then he stood up from the bed like he was sleepwalking. This new ghost's power is quite useful, but it's too painful to split one's consciousness. Trying to clench his fists, the man's expression was strange. There was jealousy in his voice. No matter how useful a ghost is, it's no match for a red specter. The man's body was frozen, and like a puppet, he walked out the door. His movements became more familiar, and his footsteps became faster. Without attracting anyone's attention, he ran out from the hospital's emergency exit. He avoided all the surveillance cameras in the lobby and slipped into the dark alley behind the hospital. There are 3 hours left. I should be able to return to the main consciousness. He stumbled down the alley that was filled with gravel and trash. His arms and legs were scratched, but he did not care. Looking at the approaching exit, he slowly relaxed. It doesn't matter if the plan fails. As long as I'm alive and bring the message out, everything is still unknown. The streetlight outside the alley gave off a dim yellow light. As he slowly approached, a man holding a hammer walked out from the shadow and blocked the entrance. There was not a single car on the road at midnight, and the place was eerily quiet. Occasionally, a stray cat would stop by, but soon, it seemed to sense something and ran away. Who are you? The investigator stood in the middle of the muddy alley. His shoes had disappeared, and his feet were stepping on the trash. Blood leaked out from his wounds. You can't even recognize my voice. The man in the shadow slowly walked out. He was holding a scary hammer in his hand. The dim light elongated his shadow. The person who spoke was a man, but his shadow had the shape of a long-haired woman. The investigator saw the man's face clearly. He gritted his teeth and squeezed out 2 words. Chen Ge. We don't know each other, but you can call out my name. Looks like I'm not wrong. The man who blocked the exit was Chen Ge. He and Captain Yan had searched the entire 3rd building, but they had not found the last killer. At the time, Chen Ge had started to suspect it. He had asked Captain Yan for the hospital that the investigator was at. Then, he had returned to New Century Park, grabbed the hammer, and snuck into the hospital. How did you discover me? At this moment, the investigator surprisingly calmed down. He had a strange smile on his face as he stared at Chen Ge's face. Why should I tell you? Pressing the play button on the recorder, Chen Ge walked into the back alley with the hammer in his hands. Killing me will do you no good. This is just a part of my consciousness that I've hidden inside my scapegoat. Also, don't forget that I'm currently inside a police officer's body. When the investigator first saw Chen Ge, he was indeed given quite a fright, but he soon calmed down. If I die, this police officer will die with me. Chen Ge was too lazy to waste time with him. The phone in his pocket had been recording, and all their conversation was recorded. Looking at the approaching hammer, the corner of the investigator's lips twitched. Chen Ge's cold expression seemed to be telling him that none of them were good people, so he should stop using such despicable methods to threaten them. Actually, we can still talk. Aren't you curious about my identity? Don't you want to know who I am? The patient was trying his best to communicate with Chen Ge, but from the looks of it, Chen Ge did not seem to want to talk to him. Seeing that Chen Ge was getting closer, the patient changed his words. Don't you want to know who the leader of the Society of Strange Tales is? Who's the leader? This is a multiple choice question, and I'm currently using the elimination method to solve this problem. Chen Ge very tactfully told the investigator that he probably wouldn't survive the night. Chen Ge did not plan to kill him. He came here behind Captain Yan's back because he had another plan. He planned to bring the investigator back to the haunted house and slowly interrogate him. What was the saying again? There was strength in numbers. Arrest him first, then hand him over to the police. Chen Ge said that because his phone was recording. His real intention was to break both of the man's legs first, and that would be enough for now. The scout could not find any weakness on Chen Ge, but his expression did not change that much. It appeared like he still had a trump card that he had not used yet. Chen Ge, I'm sure you'll be interested in what I'm going to say next. If you can let me leave, I'll tell you how the door is formed and how to open and close it. The investigator had a strange expression on his face. He seemed to be certain that Chen Ge would be interested. Think about it. You should know the value of this information. The investigator's expression was calm, but his body involuntarily took 2 steps back. The one controlling this police officer is just a scapegoat, and it contains a third of my consciousness. Even if you kill him, I won't be hurt. If you won't be hurt, then why are you in such a hurry to leave? Chen Ge slowed down. Show me your sincerity. That's the premise of the deal. Seeing that Chen Ge was finally interested, the investigator sighed in relief. Since you want to know about the door, I believe you know the location of one of the doors. Yes, Chen Ge did not deny it. The reason for the appearance of the door is very complicated, and temporarily, no one can explain it. I only know that they usually gather at places with heavy resentment and few people. However, the external environment is only one of the prerequisites. The most important reason is that there has to be someone who knocks on the door. Someone who knocks on the door. The world behind the door is a sea of blood red, filled with despair and destruction. It contains the various negative emotions in people's hearts. It is the opposite of the human world, a place where countless nightmares are gathered. The investigator's voice started to waver. A normal person cannot see that world. Only those who have lost all hope and have a collapsed personality have a chance to push open the door. I once heard from the first door pusher that day, just like any other day, he did not do anything extra. He just pushed open the door that he often used, but the world behind the door was completely different. The door appeared out of nowhere, without any warning. Quote, without warning. Yes, you have a door, so you should have had similar experiences. For example, when you were standing outside the door, you would hear. The investigator was halfway through his sentence when a siren suddenly came from outside the alley. A few police cars were roaring in their direction. You called the police. The smile on the investigator's face slowly disappeared. Chen Ge shook his head. Continue. Tell me the information behind the door, and I can help you cover it up. Is that so? The investigator chuckled coldly. You can try. You don't have any other choice now. Chen Ge looked around, looking for a place to hide the hammer. Living in hell, do you think the devil will believe the words of the devil? The investigator turned and ran toward the hospital. Chen Ge chased after him. Don't move. There were police cars coming from the other side of the alley. The investigator's path was completely blocked. He did not stop and rushed into the hospital without hesitation. Using the complicated terrain to escape. Or is he trying to kidnap a hostage? Chen Ge chased after him, and he soon realized that he had underestimated the investigator's decisiveness and cruelty. Bang! Kicking open the safety door, the madman ran to the roof of the hospital. Don't come any closer. The investigator stepped on the railing. He stood at the edge of the hospital. The night wind fluttered the patient's garb. The city was under his feet, and he stood in the darkness, looking down at everything. Chen Ge, who was following closely behind the investigator, stopped 3 meters away from the investigator. He did not continue to give the investigator any pressure. "Chen Ge, I'll remember your name. The next time we meet, I'll give you a surprise." The smile returned to the investigator's face. He looked at Chen Ge and slowly opened his arms. Yao Qingyi. The roof's safety door was pushed open, and Captain Yan and the other people from the station rushed over.